Hello there, I'm Colin. Thanks for stopping by.
And I'm Roma. Welcome to Messing About with a Narrowboat.
This episode we're going to look at the interior design considerations for our fit out. Here's a quick disclaimer. So, we're no experts. These videos are about how we do, not how to do. And you should always seek professional advice for your own DIY project where necessary. So here's a little bit of background on how we started thinking about the project. Where did we start? Well, we started with research.
We knew roughly what we wanted, but didn't really know where to start.
And it became pretty clear, pretty quick, that boat design is actually quite hard. You need to design the interior before the boat shell, and you need to design the boat shell before the interior.
And we needed to learn a whole load of new things and do research.
By the way, that's not my desk. It's not as tidy as that, and you'd kill the plants.
That's not nice.
By the way, we're recording this in our study, and it is the hottest day of the year, and we are sweating buckets.
Indeed.
So the reason for the project, rather than buying a ready-made boat, is really just about timing. Nothing more than that. I decided to take early retirement, but we knew I'd be bored, so we needed a project.
We love narrowboating and kind of romanticised about it, so it made sense for you, haha. The thought of selling up and moving back to Scotland and buying a boat? No.
It's too bloody cold in Scotland. Plus, we started looking around. The boat builder lead times were really long. They were around about 18 months and longer in some. So in 2022, some of the builders that we looked at had order books 25 for delivery, and that was just way too long for us. We'd be dead.
We found out it takes 12 to 15 weeks for a boat builder to build a boat, so they can only do a few a year. And at the time, materials had a long waiting times.
So if we wanted one built, we would have had to wait. If I was retired, I'd have to sit about getting fatter. So we decided a self-fit out was a good thing to do. It will keep us occupied for a while until you're ready to retire.
Yeah, indeed.
Maybe not so long.
Maybe. We'll see.
So we did some intense research. We needed to see if we could apply it, if it was viable, if it was affordable, if it was really something we wanted to do, or we were just being a bit romantic, really. So we went on a narrowboat holiday, our umpteenth.
We loved it and we're really excited to kick off a project. We looked at loads of boats, some pretty old, some newer, and they were really nice.
But not quite what we wanted, really. And we didn't really want to spend a whole bunch of money and then have to remodel a boat. We watched a few YouTubers ripping out boats and knew we just don't have the capacity to rip out and restart. We don't have the capacity, we don't have the longevity of life. Life is too short.
Indeed.
So that's why we're doing the project. A mix of cost, lead time, boredom, and we like stretching ourselves outside of our comfort zone. We love learning new stuff.
We do.
We really try.
But we know we can reach out to people if we need to.
Now, at the start of our research, we found a company called the Fit Out Pontoon, who will help you with design and your drawings, and if you want to, the fit out. But again, they had no capacity in our time frame for design work or for fit out.
What they do have is DIY plans, so we bought those to see if we could design it ourselves.
The plans have drawings for all sorts of standard narrowboats, including the semi-cruiser stern and the enclosed bow that we wanted.
And they also have little cutout shapes for standard narrowboat stuff like toilets, showers, beds, sofas, etc. from the main chandlers.
So you take one of their DIY plans, the mock-ups, and you cut out shapes and play around with it until you see what works. This is really helpful to visualise things.
So those DIY templates really helped us figure out what the basic interior was going to be.
It was then I decided to document everything. Being a project manager, I decided to make a project initiation document detailing everything: budget, appliances, spaces, window placements, power audit, etc. The whole shebang in a document.
We've not quite got to colours yet, but we know it will not be a heavily wooded design, more modern.
I grabbed an image from the internet and added a grid where each box represents 1 foot. Kind of simple. I did this in Microsoft Word. I could have used other drawing tools, but I wanted a single document with everything in it, and tables, lists, all that sort of stuff. And I'm pretty familiar with Microsoft Office. So while the research was going on, I found some courses run by the Narrowboat Skills Centre at Debdale Wharf. They do weekend courses for fit out and DIY people, giving a day of theory and a day of practical on each subject. We plumbed some stuff, we wired a boat mock-up, we made cupboard doors, we made bulkheads and so forth. I learned loads. It was really helpful. But it also validated that we had the skills to do this project, that we had the knowledge and the capability to do it.
That's good.
On the courses, you're working with others in the same mindset, really. The knowledge share was immense. I have to point out this video. This isn't sponsored. I was really impressed with the Narrowboat Skills Centre, but there's no sponsorship here. If you're looking at this and you're thinking about a project, I would definitely recommend their courses. This all left us with way too many questions. It was very overwhelming.
My head hurts.
So we started writing down section by section everything we wanted.
And we used that to go and find a boat builder.
I guess just like building a house, you need to know roughly what you want.
Yep, it's going to be our home. So there was so much to think about. It took a long time, with lots of pauses for the "are we doing the right thing" debate.
Writing it down really helped, and helped the book builder as we knew what we wanted.
Yeah, it was quite helpful. So using those DIY templates, we were able to map out where everything will go. General sizes, how many lights, where sockets will go, where mushroom vents will go. I mean, who wants a condensation dripping vent above your bed? It all got nicely cemented, but there was just so much detail and decisions that documenting it just made more sense. And we were able to review any gaps and just check everything was right for us. Did I mention I was a project manager? So here's the bow, the enclosed bow with its extra 4 foot of space for us because we've given up on the well deck. But we're going to put a double bed in there, 4'6" bed, 6 lights, mushroom vent, the navigation lights in the horn, and the tunnel light. And the bathroom's a walk-through bathroom. It's 6 foot long, there'll be 4 lights, an extractor fan. Narrowboats have very little space for big bathrooms or baths. but the shower is big enough for me to squeeze into, and that's good enough. The saloon is 9 foot long with a central walkway. This was a big trade-off with the galley storage, and we needed a place for the cat. We're having a diesel stove. Now, we know a log burner is good and deadwood can be found along the canals, but we don't have a well deck, so we've got no space for storage, and frankly, we just can't be bothered cleaning it all the time. And the constant smell of smoke, it's not for us. We have an open fire at home, and we hardly use it. Of course, the big consideration with a diesel stove is, have you got enough fuel in the tank? So we've had an extra 60 litre fuel tank put in the stern, specifically for the diesel stove and the diesel heater. Now, we've decided on having a dinette around 6 foot 6 inches. Current trends are for breakfast bars, gives you more space, or an L-shaped sofa with a removable table in the saloon. But we like a dinette. It gives us somewhere to work and eat and is separate from our other spaces. It's going to have storage underneath, but we're still figuring that out. It will also make a small bed for visitors. And finally, the galley at 12 foot. Now, this was the hardest to imagine, the hardest to figure out. There needs to be space for the electrics, for the batteries, for the inverter, for the solar, and there needs to be space for the hot water tank called a calorifier. This takes a circulation feed from the engine to heat the water, so it needs to be close to the stern. Now, some people put their calorifier in the engine bay, but it seemed to us that you're heating up the water just for it to be impacted by the cold engine bay. And there's pros and cons of both locations, but ours is in the galley, in a cupboard. The other consideration is cupboard space. In a narrow boat, it's at a premium. So we designed the galley to have a lot of pull-out drawers, larder, space for washing machine, space in the plinth, etc. And figuring out the fridge freezer was really hard. Do we have a separate fridge and a separate freezer and at the cost of battery power? Or a combined one? And we looked at under-counter fridge freezers that are not for us. And do we go for a 12 volt one, which is more expensive, or a 240 volt one, which you can buy on the high street, which are cheaper, but comes at a cost on energy from your batteries? Now, who would have thought a fridge freezer discussion would be so complex? Electrical choices and setup are a complex subject, and I'm no electrician. Here, I'm going to overview our electrics, and we will cover in more detail in later vlogs. All energy on a boat is off-grid. Every amp of power comes from your batteries. There are many ways to charge your batteries, such as solar, engine alternators, shore power. But you need to make sure that you size your batteries and your charging for your expected power needs. There are different types of batteries. Now, we're not talking engine starter battery here. We're talking about the leisure batteries for our off-grid living. Your choice is based on charging and usage profiles and battery location. And it took a lot of research. From lead-acid batteries to lithium phosphate or LiFePO. Luckily, there are loads of resources around to help. Once we had the interior outlined, the location of stuff, number of lights, fridge choice, washing machine, and general power usage, we were able to do a power audit. This is where you look at the power consumption of each appliance, how long you will use it for each day, and the usage in each season. You need to work out your best and your worst case scenarios of your power consumption to size your batteries. You also need to have enough battery bank to last a couple of days, just in case you can't charge the batteries properly for any reason. You can't rely wholly on solar in a country where on average it rains every other day. It's a trade-off though. More demand needs more batteries needs more space and more money.
Help me, I'm poor.
Everything, absolutely everything, is a compromise in an off-grid narrowboat. In the end, we've gone down a full Victron manufacturer route with two 300 amp hour lithium batteries. All the kit talks to each other, mostly. And that's a good thing in tech terms. We'll cover all of that off when we do the Electrics Fix episodes, as it's a longer explainer than we have time for here. Plumbing is actually pretty straightforward. You have a cold water tank and a pump to send that water around the boat, and a hot water tank called a calorifier, which is connected to the engine to get the water heated. And no, the engine water circulates around the water in the tank to heat it up. You're not washing in engine coolant. You can have a central heating system too, which can also heat up the water in your calorifier. You just need to choose the right type of calorifier. You also need a couple of pressure handling devices, and all the fittings are generally push-fit types. The main design decisions to be made are for pipe runs, matched to your interior layout of course. It's best to keep pipes and fittings accessible for maintenance, so best not to put them behind wall linings or under the floors, although some manufacturers do. You also need to figure out what size and type of calorifier you're going to need and where it's going to go. Ours is a 55 litre in a cupboard in the galley, and we'll see more of that when we fit the plumbing. Yep, that's correct. We're about to talk a load of shite.
On the bridge, Mr. Spock immediately ordered general alert.
Sooner rather than later, when you meet another narrowboater, they will ask about your toilet. There are 4 main choices of toilet types on a narrowboat. There's the pump-out toilet, which needs a holding tank somewhere, usually under your bed or under a sofa. When it's full, you have to pay for it to be pumped out. This is what the hire boats usually use. It's got the largest capacity and convenience. No pun intended there. Some say though it can be a bit smelly sometimes. Another option is the cassette toilet, like RVs and motorhomes, which have a cassette which holds a small amount for a few days and then have to be emptied in a designated area called an Elsan point. No, I've no idea why it's called that, and you definitely need more than one cassette just to be safe. Elsan points are sometimes not the cleanest of areas, and it's definitely a bit smelly. There's also a separator toilet option. Some people call it a composting toilet, where solids and liquids go into separate buckets. Yup, you're literally shit in a bucket. You empty the liquids at an Elsan point, but you have to keep solids on board and compost them down for several months and dispose of those contents yourself. It's less nasty than it sounds, apparently. You can't use the canal and river truss bins, so you have to poodle around with your doo-doo on your roof or your well deck until it's safe to dispose. These are becoming more and more popular. And finally, there's an incinerator toilet, where it burns your waste. Now let's rule that out on both cost and energy use basis for off-grid living. They cost a fortune to buy, and they use loads of gas for each flush, and each flush takes about 30 minutes, which is bloody terrible if you're both desperate to go.
I need a bathroom.
So there you go, that's the different toilet options. Now, we don't have a well deck, and our roof space has our solar panels, and our bed has the water tank underneath. So really the only option is the cassette toilet for us. We had to work through our bathroom design to fit that device. So, that's it. That's our journey. The things we had to think about in our the things we had to learn and so on. We hope you found it interesting. I'm pretty sure we'll have to adjust as we go along, but having a plan mitigates some of the risk. It allows us to manoeuvre around the inevitable issues that are going to arise. Planning it out made so much sense.
My head hurts.